I found the coolest thing while unpacking, you guys. Hey, what's up you guys? Nick here. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Nick. I'm a professional photographer. I've been shooting professionally for about 3 years, but I've had a camera in my hand for about the last 16. For those of you who are joining me for another video, thank you guys so much. As you can tell, I got a haircut and I just got back from camping. So while I was unpacking this week, I found something really, really cool. I found a box containing prints from my first gallery, and these are uncut, unmatted. It's the only unmounted prints that I have left, so I wanted to share those with you guys. I don't know where the digital copies went. They're on one of my older laptops that's still packed away, so I don't remember exactly where they are, so it's really special that I found these, and I'm really, really excited. So I'm going to try to avoid glare as much as possible with the ring light so I can share these photos with you. We're going to kind of go over the story behind each photo, the camera I was using, how I shot the photo, the lighting conditions, all of that stuff. So I'm going to grab this box real quick and let's go through these. So this first photo was actually taken at Bodie Lake in the Red Feather area. Hopefully that is clear and not too glary. And actually it kind of looks a little ghostly, the image itself does. And that's because I was using a Nikon D70S that had a full spectrum conversion done to it. You guys can find it on eBay all over the place for about $200 to $250. But it allows you to shoot in any spectrum because they take the infrared and ultraviolet filter off of the sensor itself. So this one has a ghostly appearance. I was shooting it through a 750 NM filter, which I will link down below in my description if you guys are interested in getting into infrared photography. It only allows for a certain spectrum of light through when you're using that filter, so you kind of get a weird ghostly effect. This actually wasn't photoshopped other than me changing the white balance and bringing the contrast up a little bit. The people in the image itself kind of appear ghostly, and that's because they were slightly moving and it was a long exposure. So some of the grass kind of has some movement to it, the waves kind of have some silky feel to it, but it's kind of a really cool photo altogether. So I'll share that again real quick with you guys. So the next one is actually pretty old. I think it's, I took this photo probably almost 6 or 7 years ago now. This is one of the first night shoots I did in a really serious manner. I shot this with a Nikon D70, the one I bought for my grandfather when I first started shooting photography really seriously 6 or 7 years ago or so. But this one was taken at the old Syntax location facing down the railroad tracks. And this was also a long exposure. It was shot on the Sigma 28 to 200 millimeter lens that I have. I don't know all the details for it. You can actually see my old photography name, which was Full Luna Photography 2015. So yeah, this was 5 years ago. We avoided the glare. You know, you've got the smokestack billowing a little bit of steam and the light catching that, as well as all the steam coming off of the trains and stuff. It was winter of 2015. I believe this photo was taken in either December or January of that year. And it was a lot of fun. I didn't spend too much time outside because it was freezing. My fingers were numbing up and I had to wrap my camera in a plastic bag so the condensation didn't build up with it. And I think we discussed that in an earlier video about camera care. This one was very minimally edited. This was back when I wasn't editing a whole lot. I adjusted the contrast a little bit and some of the shadows and the white balance to kind of get this cool look to it. So this one was taken at the same time as the Bodie Lake image. This one was actually taken on the Nikon D70, the non-converted one. It is a night shoot, and it kind of goes along with the silhouette video we discussed last week, which I'll link right above up there. In this one you can see the trees, and the moon was actually rising at that time. It was about midnight and it was a full moon that night. And the moon was starting to rise, but you still have a lot of good stars. I was using a really high ISO, and I'm surprised there's not a whole lot of noise in this image, but the sky really came out beautifully with those really dark trees, and I think the moon really helped out right there, kind of bring out some of the detail. I absolutely love this image, you guys. So this one here was taken with a Nikon D70S. I didn't adjust the white balance quite as much, the 750 NM infrared filter, and this was actually taken up at my mom's cabin that she has up in Glen Haven, and there's a little creek that runs through the back of it. I wanted to have a fall golden look almost to it, so I didn't adjust the white balance too much. I think I left it on sunlight or maybe cloudy to kind of get that really warm color to it, and it just kind of looks like a really beautiful fall screen. It was actually taken in the springtime, so it was really green weather, but I really wanted it to look more fall-y, so we just kind of messed with the white balance a little bit. And as you can see, the silk in the water running through the little rocks and pebbles and things like that, it actually ended up turning out to be a really cool image. So this image here was taken in Rocky Mountain National Park. This one was taken with my Nikon D5100. I believe I took this with the Tamron 18 to 180 millimeter lens, I believe is which one it is. But we went on a hike in the Rocky Mountain National Park in the Boulder County area, I believe, up towards one of the waterfalls up there. But as you can see, it's really, really green. It was springtime. I really wanted to capture the really beautiful spring greens, as well as the water running through and all of that beautiful, like, kind of nature thing going on. This wasn't really a secluded area either. That's one of the beautiful things about perspective in your photos, is you can be in a really busy area. We were on a really busy trail. This was a bridge that crossed over the river, and there was a lot of people there, but I was able to put myself in a perspective where it looks desolate, it looks empty, it looks like I had hiked miles and miles and miles to get there. In reality, it was probably a quarter mile from the parking lot on a footbridge that I just happened to get the right angle in order to get rid of the trails, so you can't see the trails, you can't see the other people walking around, because in reality there's a trail that runs up over on this side and a trail that runs up over on this side, and the bridge that came across where I'm standing, and there was people all over the place, but I managed to get a really good shot and just get the right angles so that you can't tell that there's a bunch of people there. So on this one, I actually remember this image very well. It's actually back behind me on the wall, mounted on a mat. This is the night I broke my first tripod because it got knocked over. We actually had a fire going in my girlfriend's backyard when she lived with my friends Jess and Topanga. This was taken on a Nikon D70 as well, that one that I keep talking about. This one is a much older photo, but it is a long exposure nighttime photo. As you can see, the kind of yellows are from the fire that they had going in the fire pit, and then this green lighting up here was from one of those, if you're driving through the country and you see the almost green lights on some of the barns and outbuildings, it was that kind of lighting in the back of their house. I don't know why it had that there. And then that flannel there, you've guys probably seen in some of my videos me wearing that flannel because I still have it. It's super comfy. It's really old and broken in, but that is one of my favorite photos that I had captured at that time, and still one that I like enough to still hang on my wall behind me in my videos. So the next photo is actually the other one on my wall behind me, and this was at Light Up the Mountain in Steamboat Springs. This was taken on the modified Nikon D70S. Like I said, this is from my first gallery. So most all of these were taken on the D70 or the D70S, and one or two of them were taken on the D5100. My first gallery was actually at Syntax. It was part of the First Friday, so a bunch of people were there. I sold several prints. I was really, really happy. I still have some of the prints. So if you guys are interested in them, leave a comment or email me. I'll leave my email down in the description, and I can always sell these, and I can always sign these and ship them out to you, and we can talk about a price or something if you actually are interested in that. But as you can see, I was shooting without the filter, so we have a full spectrum of lighting on all of these balloons. Now, it was a long exposure shot on a tripod, freezing out. It had been December or January that they do the Light Up the Mountain, and they actually don't take off from the mountain in the balloons. They just kind of blow them up and then fire fireballs through them. And I actually captured this one where all of them are lit up, but you don't see any of the torches on, which would glow through them. So you actually get to see just the balloons themselves without them being illuminated too much internally, making them almost look translucent like this one over here does. This is definitely one of my favorite images. And it was long exposure, so you can tell that some of the people in the images have moved because arms are blurred out, legs are blurred out. I think there's one person who looks like a ghost in this photo, but that was actually a really fun trip. I really need to do that one again. So here's another one from Bodie Lake. This one was taken with the Nikon D70S with my Sigma lens and the 750 NM infrared filter. And this one, I yellowed out a little bit more instead of giving it the really, really ghostly appearance like the one I showed earlier. And this one has more of a yellow feel. As you can see, all the people lined up on the banks fishing. You can't really see their faces because, again, it was a long exposure shot. And because it was a long exposure shot, every little movement they make interferes with that. I was shooting at a really, really high f-stop. It had to have been f22 or f32. Do something along those lines because it's a really soft image. So I was using a really small f-stop. And the lake was a lot emptier that day. It was really early in the season that we had gone up, and we went really early in the morning. So there's not as many people along the lake as you saw on the other one, but there's still enough to really bring the photo about, and it's kind of a really cool little piece. I kind of hope that I can find the digital of this one because I'd like to make it black and white and kind of see what it looks like that way. So here's another one from our Red Feather trip when we went camping that year. This one was taken on a Nikon D70. Again, you can see the really beautiful silhouettes of the trees. You can see the stars. They're kind of moving a little bit because of the exposure time. You can see a little Colorado flag over here. We fly one every year when we go camping. We throw it in the tree and hang it up, kind of have our flag at our campsite. And this one, again, this one was before the moon began to rise, so you don't see the glow in the background like you did in the one I showed earlier, but you still have the stars lighting up the trees enough where their silhouettes appear. It's really dark here, but it's really bright in that background. I'm really happy with this shot. This one might have to go on the wall behind me too, you guys. This one was taken on a separate trip from the Light Up the Night. We go to Steamboat about 3 or 4 times a year, and this one was taken on the mountain itself during the night skiing. This one was taken with a Nikon D70S with no filter, and it looks like it's whited out, but that's actually the snow makers, kind of things that make the snow and blow it out on the mountain. And it's being illuminated by the lights on the ski hill itself, and it kind of has this cool purple over here, like this cool purple here, and like this green aquamarine kind of coloring going on over here. And that's the full spectrum effect from the different lights on the mountain and the lights in the town in the background, as well as the light coming off the sky. And you get this really cool intermix of colors. Again, not a lot of editing went in this. I adjusted the contrast a little bit, and I messed with the sharpness just a hair. Hopefully you guys can see that. So this one was actually taken when I was working at Nissan. As a technician over at Nissan, we were working on an exhaust on a customer's car, and I captured that with my Google Pixel 1, and I converted it to black and white, and I threw it through a processor. But as you can see, the shop foreman right there is welding the pipe up here. I really hope that turns out and it's not all glared out. And you can see like the car tire and the rear suspension and all that. And you know, the sparks of the welder blowing off. It was a really cool black and white industrial piece. It's really something that, you know, I was really big into. You can see the sparks flying off, and the sparks that are closer to my camera are longer because of the added exposure time from being underneath the car itself. And this one was definitely one of my favorites. I might have to hang this one on the wall too. This one is actually a picture of an engine that was torn apart. It was a Nissan V6 engine, and you got both the heads, the camshafts, you can see the valve springs and everything, with just the 2 heads taken off the top of the engine, and all the little pieces and bits that go along with that just torn across on a teardown table. Again, this one was shot on my Google Pixel 1. You know, the really big whiteout over on the side is actually because I was facing the doors of the automotive shop itself, so the sunlight was coming through here, and it gave a really cool contrast to it. You know, your shadows are really dark and your lights are really light, and it really adds to that black and white and that industrial feel. So back to that one that I showed earlier of the welding, is I actually did a close-up. I did this one with the Nikon D70. I actually went out to my car and grabbed it so I can get a close-up shot of Scott welding on that exhaust pipe after I captured it with my phone. And this one, there is a lot more contrast. That welder is extremely bright, but I was able to not just only capture the brightness of the welder, but the contrast of the glove, and you can see the welding gun, as well as the exhaust over here, even to the point where his uniform itself is illuminated by that gun, but you've got this really black here and this little black here. And actually the shop lights were on completely, but that welding gun was so bright that it just blacked out everything behind him. But the image was taken so quickly and so sharply, you can actually see wisps of smoke from the welding gun doing its thing. That was actually a really fun shoot. I got some more images on that day, but nothing that I deemed print worthy. So this one I actually took in the town of Walden on the way back from Mustang of the Rockies, which is held in Steamboat Springs almost every year. It probably won't be held this year, but it was of a name badge on a Ford Comet. As you can see, comet, and then you have the chrome trim. You have a little bit of imperfections due to the age of the vehicle. I don't remember how old the vehicle was because it's been so long since I took this photo, but you can see definitely see the body lines, the shadow on the letters on the bottom because the letters are almost indented like this around the body trim itself. I sold several of these. A lot of people were really interested in the automotive photography, so I was really happy that I was able to move some of these because I didn't think I was going to be able to. So this last one actually was after a full day of work at the dealership. I took it with a Nikon D70. Before we did the cleanup, before we did the end of the day cleanup, I actually walked over to the shop foreman's tool cart and took a picture of all of his equipment. So you have his air impact, you have his electric impact, you have the grease and the grease and the anti-seize he's using, all these bolts and nuts over here, some of his tools kind of thrown about, and you can kind of see just what it is at the very end of the day, what the end of the day looks like. You have a pair of gloves sitting in there, several wrenches, there's just random bits of tools here and there. These photos weren't staged in any way. It was literally just I walked in at the end of the day with my camera and took this photo. It was really contrasty, very industrial feeling, very automotive feeling, and it really turned out to be a really good black and white piece. It's not as good of a photo in color in my opinion, and some photos are that way. Some photos are better in black and white than they would be in color. Some photos are better in color. It's all about the story that you want to tell. Now, like I said earlier, these prints were all, this was part of my first gallery. These prints mean a whole lot to me because I was actually able to get into the gallery. Again, it was at Syntax Distillery, but still I was part of that first Friday. My name was announced in the newspaper. It was something really special to me, and it was really a turning point in my photography. I went from just kind of doing it as a hobby to actually selling prints to selling art, and then that evolved into finally doing a portrait class about 3.5 years ago, and then jumping into shooting portraits professionally. And none of what I do now, these YouTube videos, the Instagram, my Facebook, all of the clients I have, the studio, none of that would have been possible if Syntax Distillery hadn't given me that opportunity. If they hadn't said, yeah, your art is pretty, let's hang it on the wall, let's see if we can sell some stuff, you're going to be part of our first Friday. And it really meant so much to me. It meant the absolute world to me that I was able to do that. And then after I sold some pieces and sold some prints, and really started fine-tuning my art, I got to a point where I realized that I might be able to do something with this one day. I might actually be able to push myself into a position where I can shoot professionally, where I can charge for my shoots, I can do my artistic shoots and sell those. Maybe one day I can get into magazines. And so far I've reached all of those goals, and my big goal now is just to continue shooting, continue getting better, and continue making YouTube videos for you guys because I absolutely enjoy what I'm doing. I absolutely love making the videos. I love taking the photos. I love doing all of that. So I want to thank you guys so much. Running into that box and just seeing the beginning of my journey has meant so much to me that as I was flipping through those, I wanted to share them with you. I know that we talked about doing the silhouette from my camping trip and talking about what the story could tell, but as I was unpacking and I found these, I realized that I wanted to tell this story first. The silhouette video will be next week where we discuss the story behind the silhouette photo, and we'll talk about some other things that are coming up, but I really wanted to tell this story to you guys, and I wanted to show you my beginnings. We went over my early portrait portfolio in this video here, and how terrible those photos were looking back on them and how cringy they are. These ones were the best I had at that time for landscape and night and industrial photography, a mix of black and white and color and infrared, and I just kind of blended it all together. I had the prints made, I threw them at the gallery, and it was very well received, and I was extremely happy. So if you guys set up goals for yourselves and you keep shooting and you keep pushing and you reach out to those small businesses and those small local art galleries, you too could get into a gallery. You could have that euphoric feeling when you hang your first print or when you sell your first print. It's a really wonderful feeling, and I want you guys to experience it as well. So thank you guys again so much for joining me on this journey. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you guys know right when I upload. I upload every single Sunday, and if you like the video, please share it. We are at 214 subscribers as of recording this, and at 500 subscribers, I'm giving away this Jolly Look camera. So thank you guys again so much. You have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.